As you've seen from the title, we're here today to talk about the War of Two Queens because, listen, I've seen so many harsh reviews for this about this book that I felt like I needed to make this video, not only because I really enjoyed it, but because I felt like this book needed praise. But before diving into the whys I've enjoyed this book so much, and I do not agree with the reviews, 1-star reviews, I wanted to lay down some facts. The first being that since this is the first book in the series, there are some things, some established things about not only the plot, the characters, dynamics, and etc., but structure wise as well, in the sense that that this author has a specific style of writing and the way she structures her books and etc. So we know that the main way she carries out world building is through Poppy's questions. Like, she asks a question to Castile but Kieran as well. Most of the times they act like they complain about it, that they are annoyed by her questions, but all the same, by answering her questions, you as a reader get the elements that you need to understand what is going to happen, what is going on. This has been going on the very first book, so you cannot come into this fourth book and say, oh well, I don't like the way it feels. Poppy asks so many questions, this has been overdone. It's just the way it is. If you don't like this type of world building, if you don't like Poppy's character, then why are you still reading the series? You know what I mean? But does this mean that this is the best possible way of carrying out world building? Probably not. Does this feel sometimes a bit confusing to understand and to follow? Yes. Does this mean that it can feel like an info dump? Well, at times it can be, especially in the second book, after the secret being revealed about Castile's identity and Atlantia, and the truth about the Ascended and all this stuff. There was a heavy, a lot of world building, a lot of politics, a lot of history and background being revealed about characters, about the history of the kingdoms, gods, and whatever. So that book felt heavy for this very reason. But in this book, honestly, I did not felt it. Yes, there was still some new facts being revealed, some new characters and mythological beings that came into play that I honestly cannot really remember, or that I'm still a bit confused. If I were to retell the book and the characters that played in it, I would probably have some problems with remembering everything. But this is a high fantasy. That there is a lot of facts, a lot of details, a lot of things going on at the same time. So, But leaving that aside, the other thing that is being the receiver of such huge backlash is actually another thing that I'm going to mention a bit later in the video, because I feel like it's spoilery. So I'm going to put a warning, and if you don't want to know anything about the book, then you're just going to skip that part of the video. But going back to this very book, The War of Two Queens, it was just everything that I expected it to be, in the sense that the third book, The Crown of Gilded Bones, ends with Castile being taken captive, by the Blood Queen. So I thought that this fourth book was going to be about Poppy's plan to rescue Castile, Poppy's plans about Atlantia and the future of Atlantia, and then her her self journey through managing her powers and her history, finding her place amongst the Atlanteans and the army as a queen, and etc., etc. And this is what I got. This is exactly what I got. Like, of course, the first thing in Poppy's mind is to rescue Castile, and that leaves, Poppy in charge, in the sense that she's the queen. She's the rightful queen of Atlanta, and she acts like a queen. And with Kieran as her right hand, basically. But it's also true that Poppy is also established a very good and very, intimate relationship with everyone around them, like in the closest of her circle, with the Wolven and everyone, and in the army, etc., etc. And I honestly, after finishing this book, the only thoughts I have is, oh my god, I cannot wait for the fifth one. But I'm also glad because, JLA has the tendency to end her books on a cliffhanger, like in the third book, and sometimes these cliffhangers, are tolerable, and other times they are not, like the third book ending with Castile being taken away. But this one is actually, there is a plot twist at the end, so there is also always the cliffhanger aspect of the ending, but it's more related to facts and, the history background of what is going to happen, because there's a secret that has been revealed at the very end, and so they're like, okay, now our plans need to change because of that, new thing that's come into play that they didn't know about. Around the 93%, I was so very scared of keep reading, because I knew that something bad was going to happen. When there are huge fights, huge battles, when the time of confrontation has come between Poppy and her mother, then you know that something bad is going to happen, because it's very unlikely that everyone will survive this huge battle, and that is what I feared. But I'm quite happy with how things have, played out. That's all that I will say. So, take it as you will. The other thing is that I love Poppy's character. I love her strength. I love her power. I loved every single minute of her journey, going from the maiden to now the queen of Atlanta, and this new, this journey of self-discovery and self-awareness, of dismantling everything that she believed in, to now realize the things, weren't as she was told. And that takes a huge amount of strength, in my opinion, like to take every single one of your beliefs, everything that you've always known, to just take it and erase it and throw it away, and understand that that's not the truth. It is not simply about, okay, no, I was wrong about this thing, so now I don't believe in it anymore. But it is related to your very identity. Like, this is not true, then who am I? Like, what is my place in this world? And for Poppy, this is very real. And this, she evolves in a way that is so beautiful and is so inspiring, that honestly I cannot help but be in awe of her, like Castile is. And, talking about Castile, they are two of my favorite characters ever. The relationship as well, I love them so much. I love them. They're so in love with each other. It is so pure, and it's so, obvious. Like the very first interaction they have in From Blood and Ash is so clear that there's something, between them, and they have chemistry. And this is still true in the fourth book. Like, it is not forced. It is not like, okay, they're together, so you see them interacting, but they're together because you see that they are, they fit, they're perfect for each other. And now, that everyone is so displeased with. But listen, we know from the very first moment that Castile has a very unique relationship with Kieran. And when I say relationship, I'm not referring to them being brothers or best friends. We know that there's something magical, a magical bond that links them together, because, there's this practice of a woman being bonded and linked through magic to, an Atlantean of its choice. And Castile and Kieran are bonding together. I don't remember the name of the ritual that they did, but it's just like they become one. They basically are one soul, one person. They are able to feel what the other is feeling. They are able to feel if the other is injured, if the other is still alive or is dead. So it just, to explain, to compare their relationship to something in our world, it would be very demeaning of the relationship. It would be not very fitting, because yes, they're brothers because they grew up together, but there is also more than that, more than being best friends, more. It's something just more. And then if you apply this relationship, this special relationship that they have, when Poppy comes into the picture, this relationship doesn't just like vanish into thin air or disappears, or like they grow apart. That doesn't happen. Now they're not just like best friends and they need to rearrange their dynamic because no one of them is as a girlfriend now. That doesn't happen. It's always Castile and Kieran and Poppy. It's always the three of them. So from the very beginning, and maybe okay, things were not romantic between them at first, but then that there was something special that linked the three of them, because Castile and Kieran are just like the one, they're one person. So if there is, if you have one of them, you have the other two of them. They're inseparable. And then when Poppy comes into the picture, it's just the same. It's actually the same. And the way Castile cares for Poppy, Kieran does too. And maybe it's not that out there, and at first it's not as romantic, it's not as sexual, of course, as Castile and Poppy, being that they're also heartmates and everything. But one cannot deny that there was something special that linked the three of them. There are a lot of intimate moments, a lot of pivotal moments that happen between Castile and Poppy, where Kieran is also there. There's always been intimate moments of them being, vulnerable with each other, apart from being naked. And Kieran was there. Like when Castile needed to feed from Poppy, Castile was there. And feeding can get a little more heated than just the act. And Kieran was there, and neither of them minded that, And so why does it come as a shock that now Poppy wants to protect Kieran by joining them with her? Why? Especially if you account the fact that with Castile being gone, Kieran was just like, I will not say that Kieran takes Castile's place, because that was just like, no, that would be wrong. But the thing is also that it's not like Kieran comes into the picture just because he is Castile, best friend. Let's go with best friend. But Poppy and Kieran share an intimate and a genuine and a meaningful relationship as well, apart from Castile. It's not like it doesn't make sense. It's not like as if Poppy doesn't care for Kieran. It's not as if Kieran is just a stranger or is, the third in a relationship. It's not. And in this very book, it comes so painfully obvious from the very beginning how Kieran and Poppy act as a unit, how Kieran is there to help Poppy go through, Castile's absence and to deal with everything that she needs to deal with now being a queen, and making plans to, defeat the Blood Queen and everything that they need to do, So why? And, if you don't like that kind of thing, you can understand that not everyone is into this kind of relationship, menage a trois, and I will not say reverse harem, but a girl being with more than one man. I can understand that, but it has been foreshadowed ever since the first book, so you can say, oh no, I missed it, I did not understand that this where it was going, that's fair. But why are you giving 1-star reviews for just one thing that happens in this book, where it's actually one of the smallest things that happens? Why are you disregarding Castile and Poppy's relationship? Why are you disregarding Poppy's, everything that Poppy's done in this book? Why are you disregarding all of that by giving 1 star that makes other understand that this book is just trash, when it isn't. I can show you it isn't. Again, it cannot be your cup of tea, but then just say that, because reviews don't have to be critical, like you're just some professor or literary critic that it's evaluating a book. It can also be just like your personal preference, but then say it. Don't just act like you're being betrayed, or like the author has disregarded characters and her previous plot by doing this thing, because it's not. It was clear as day that this was where they were going, and it's also very clear that the relationship is going to change and evolve in something that is not as conventional. And we are in a whole other kingdom that has a whole other traditions and customs, beliefs, whatever. So why is it okay to understand that Poppy is a goddess and she has these magical powers that link, that makes her able to just manifest her will? Why is that okay, but it is not okay to accept that Poppy can love two men at the same time? Why? I just, and maybe it's just coming from someone that is used to reading reverse RMs. I love them. As you know, my last video I talked about a book where a girl shared 10 men. So Poppy sharing Castile and Kieran doesn't come as a shock to me. But again, putting it into a context, again, I'm not shocked because it was so very clear. And it is, if the foreshadowing was subtle at first, because of course you're concentrating on Poppy's, the new secrets being revealed, the plot twist, and on developing Castile's and Poppy relationships, then in this one it's so very, it just, you cannot miss it. How could you miss it? So it's not that, everyone's entitled to their opinions, and it's okay if they don't like this book, but from don't liking something to just, bashing it and making it seem like something that it's not, I just cannot understand why someone would give such a harsh review on something that is so very personal. When it happens that I don't like a book and I'm reading, then I'm just, there's some tropes that I don't like. There's some kinks that I'm not into. So if a book has that particular trope, then at first I will just not read it because I know that I'm not going to enjoy it. But if I do end up reading it, then I will mention in my review that it's not that the book is bad, it's just that I'm not into this particular thing. And so of course this book is not going to be one of my favorites. This book is filled with bad reviews on Goodreads. Bad reviews given solely on personal opinions, all because they're not into Menage a Trois. Okay, this book is not advertised as that, but at the same time, if you have been reading the whole series carefully with attention, you should have accounted for the possibility of them being together, because it was so very clear. Again, it is so very clear. So that's what I thought about this book. It gave everything. I personally enjoy very much how in high fantasy sometimes there's the political aspect and the scheming, of battles and plotting. That is something that I really enjoy. It makes the world feel more real, in my opinion. And I get that they could be heavy to follow and heavy to understand. Again, as I said before, it's not that sometimes there is this big clunk of info dump that is being thrown up at you through Poppy's questions, and that sometimes can be hard to follow. But honestly, this book did not feel slow. This book did not feel like it could have been better without 500 pages that it has. Like in the second and third book, I honestly thought they could have done without a huge chunk of pages, because it was just it made it a bit dreadful and a bit slow. to go through. But in this one, honestly, it was the perfect balance between action, between plot, between character developments, between relationship evolving, etc., and new things being discovered. It was the perfect balance, as the first book was, in my opinion. So again, I was just like, I really do recommend this book, especially if you enjoy this series, if you enjoy this character, if you love the world, the series setting, then go for it. And another thing that I wanted to address is that I read some opinions of people saying that this series heavily takes inspiration from Game of Thrones. When I first read it, the comparison didn't come to me immediately, but after reading this thoughts, I have to say that I see it now. I see it now every time that a woman or something calls Poppy as Mayalisa, or how it is pronounced, I don't know. Or, the whole Poppy struggling with managing her powers and her humanity and her dark side and all this stuff. And that is why it makes me dread the next books in the series, because if Poppy is going to follow Daenerys, development, I know I'm not going to like what is going to happen, because Game of Thrones last season, utter trash. Now that is out of character. Now that is when a character development is just taken and thrown into the bin. No, that is that. And I'm not going to get into my personal opinions about Game of Thrones, because I could be here for hours and hours, and that's not the point of this video anyway. So if I hope that that's not Poppy's path, even though it has been foreshadowing. But I don't know, I guess we'll have to wait and read. Also, another thing is that I have not read The Shadow in the Ember before reading this one, so I feel like most of the references when it came to Niktos and the concert just went right over my head, because by not reading it, I feel like I have missed something. But at the same time, it was not impairing me to understand the bigger picture. Like, if something was mentioned, it was also explained. And I feel like if you have read Shadow in the Ember, you're going to get more references and more maybe to read between the lines. But if you have not, like me, you will not have problems with understanding everything, because of course it is focused on Poppy, Castile, Kieran, and their story. So yeah, if you read this book, I'm curious to know what you think about it. If you're the opinion of mostly everyone on Bookstagram, it baffles me. Or if you what is your opinion on this series, on this book, if you like the characters, if you didn't like what happened, and etc. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and I hope to see you in my next video.